Hello everyone. Welcome to my teaching learning session and we continue with BPCE 146 Industrial and Organizational Psychology with me. I am Sonal Singh Pawar taking care of BA courses for Ignore. We continue with Unit 6 and Block 3 today and we speak about leadership. Leadership is a very important component of talking within organizational psychology because we are looking forward to leadership roles when putting ourselves in an organization or when applying to one. So leadership may be considered as a process. So it's an act, it's always an ongoing process of influencing the activities of an organized group in its efforts towards goal setting and goal achievement. So always remember that leadership is always an act which looks forward in influencing its employees or influencing oneself while they are moving towards goal setting and goal achievement. This was given by Stockdale in 1950. It has been a very old definition of leadership. Also, leadership involves influencing employees and people while they're achieving goals, while they're moving towards a particular goal, and it involves transformation, empowering, motivating, inspiring your subordinates to perform better, to do well. Also, at times, leadership will also require to get the entire bunch of people together to complete a task or assignment. So, for example, when we talk about leadership, let's talk about what are the inspiring and the thoughts of the followers which are achieving goals. So, when we talk about leadership, what will it help us in? So, having leaders will have give us a clear vision. So, having leaders will tell you that you can have a clear vision, which is what you need to do is given and told by leaders properly. It will communicate and express your skills. There would be good decision making skills also because will our leadership is given to somebody who can make very clear decisions and can help the entire group to come to the decision making that has been done. Also, a high level of passion and dedication is required for the leadership and holding good morale and values, which is rationality is equally important when we talk about the concept of leadership. So, until an individual who's heading the group doesn't know that what is right and what is wrong, I feel the entire motive of reaching to a goal, is of no use because your leaders need to be able to inspire you. They also should be influencing you so that you achieve a goal. You have a clear motive, you have good decisions in your mind, and you have common motives too if it's a group work. Now, moving ahead with the concept of leadership, let's come back to some theories of leadership that we have. The first is trait approach of leadership, very similar to personality. So, trait approach was in personality given by Allport. Here, the first leadership theory was coined in around 20th century by Thomas Carlyle, and it's called the Great Man theory. So, the bundle of trait theories was given by Thomas Carlyle, and it was called as the Great Man theory, which assumes that leaders are born. So, when we talk about leaders, it's an innate skill. We are born with that feature of inspiring others, that charisma of influencing others, and this is not something that is made or acquired. So, leadership could be a skill that cannot be acquired, it cannot be made. According to the Great Man theory, it's always as leaders are born. So, when we talk about Abraham Lincoln, we talk about Obama, these are leaders and we talk about our prime ministers, these are leaders which are born according to this theory. This theory is also called as a trait-based perspective theory of leadership, explaining that your dispositional characteristics, which is your personality attributes. What are attributes? In simple way, attributes could be adjectives, like any features of you, can be differentiated from a non-leader's disposition. This theory also considered, effective leadership skills. They also gave you some skills which were important for leadership. And then in around 1960s, there was a big five factor theory that was coined by McRae and Costa that gave us some traits that is actually required by leaders. And I'll explain you the big five factor trait theory also. That could be the traits were openness, conscientiousness, which is again rationality, knowing what is right and wrong, extroversion, which is being social, being able to inspire others, look onto others, help them, support them, and extroversion. After extroversion, we have agreeableness. Agreeableness are people who are helpful, who are willing to support others, make them move, push them towards their goals. And the last is something that we talk about being emotionally stable. So these are some qualities which were given by the Big Five Factor theory. Big Five Factor theory. Now let's move to the second theory of leadership, which is behavioral theories of leadership. Behavioral theory has always been consistent in every field of psychology. Talk about personality, talk about general psychology, talk about cognitive psychology. We always will find behavioral psychology and behavioral theory very important. This theory of leadership was given by Kurt Lewin and his et al., which is his associates in 1939. And behavioral theory assumes that leaders are not born, but these are specific behavioral patterns of leaders that can be acquired through learning and experience. See how the two theories are different from one another? Trait says that you're born with these traits. Trait assumes that you already have these traits that you're born with and it's innate in nature. Behavioral theory has to be different because behavioral theory is based on learning principles like classical conditioning, operant conditioning. So when we talk about behavioral theories, they emphasize that we are not born with skills. We are like a blank slate and we are molded with the kind of experiences and learning experience and the learning that we provide, we get from outside environment. This leadership theory was supported by a lot of researchers. One was Ohio State study of leadership. This study was given by Fleischman, Harris, and Burt in 1945. They identified two major factors for leadership, which are called the leadership behaviors according to Ohio State leadership research. They mentioned that initiating structure, which is one of the utmost important quality for leadership, is being directed, being task oriented, being very organized. This was initiative structure in a leader which is required. The second point they mentioned was the consideration. Consideration refers to a kind of quality in leadership which makes leaders empathetic, not sympathetic. We are talking about they feeling what you are going through, or as an employee what is going wrong with you. So it's being empathetic, being supportive, being understanding, also being able, not only being focused on deadlines but also making you pre-oriented towards what the goal is all about and what is his leadership all about. So these are two qualities which was given by Ohio State researchers. One is consideration, the other is initiating structure. Now, moving to more researches which actually supported the behavioral approach that we have. This is one image that can support us that how trait and skills according to the trait theory was said. So there needs to be adaptable according to trait. Traits is adaptable to situation will make you clever and intelligent. Being alert about the social environment will make you conceptually skilled. So some people are born with being assertive, decisive, dependable. So when they are all of this, they have a skill of being diplomatic, creative, and knowledgeable. So trait theory says that these are some traits that you're born with, and they will get converted into these number of skills that you have. Now let's go ahead with behavioral researches. Then there was a research which was given by Michigan University. This research was headed by Renesses Lickert and his associates in 1946. They mentioned another two factors which is extremely important for leadership behavior and organization behavior. So the first one is employee-oriented leader. These are leaders who are concerned about employees. They actually accept the individual differences among employees and in the organization. So, and the second factor, which is an important factor for leadership behavior and organization behavior, was after accepting individual differences, is production-oriented leader. Then came a managerial grid. This grid has been one of the most famous researches that has been done in organizational psychology under the content of leadership. So managerial grid explains that leadership styles affect organizational progress. So managerial grid was a concept which was developed by Robert Blank and Jane Morton in 1964. They postulated 5 leadership styles to us, that these are some leadership style that shows that whether leader focus on the task or do they focus on the production and the result. So there were 5 leadership styles that we have. We can also focus on them. The 5 for the first that we start with, according to the managerial grid, was impoverished management. So this is a kind of management and leadership that holds on, that pays attention. This leadership pays attention to both the outcome and is concerned about the people. So here there's a balance between This kind of leaders are balancing between what are they expecting as an outcome and also about how the employees are working. So they're even concerned about the employee. The apathetic nature of the leader results in behavior that is withdrawn from the subordinates and indifferent to success. There is a lack of interest in the leader here. So the leader might not look very concerned with the employees, but they are concerned with what they are doing and what is the output. So at times, when you don't have leaders who are involved with you, you as employees feel not a part of the entire thing. You feel that this is not something that you want to be a part of. So you might withdraw. Your behaviors would be, as employees, would be very withdrawn, not speaking to leaders, not communicating your grievances to leaders. The other the other kind of style is leadership style is country club management. These are leaders who practice a kind of leadership that shows very low concerns to the result, but a very high concern to the employees, which result in a very pleasing behavior from the leader. So here the leaders are not interested in what you're doing and what is the result that you're giving in, but they're interested in how are you doing your things, what is your style of working, what is that they can learn out of you. So they might look a little over friendly, but also a little pleasing. They seem like leaders which are very pleasing to each and every employee and loved by each and every employee. So these are country club management. The other leadership that we have is authority compliance management. These are leaders who practice leadership with high concern for result and low concern for people. So they have very strong boundaries and guards. They might not interact with you much. They are only concerned with what is the result that you're getting, and they do lack passion. When you don't ask your employees how are they doing and what are they doing, and just concerned with what is your result, I'm sure there's a lack of passion, compassion which is coming in this kind of style. The next is the middle road management. These are kind of leadership which practices a style which maintains a balance between both concern for the employees and concern for the result. So they try to strike a balance between the two, and it's seen that the middle road management tends to be more successful than the other leadership style, even better than the impoverished one, and obviously the country club one. The last is the team management. Leaders practicing such leadership style has great concern on production and on paper. This is an optimal balance of developing human relationship and effective result attainment provides satisfying work environment. So when we talk about team management, here the leader himself will also be involved with the employees and will uh, look forward to how the leaders need to work. They would look forward to the fact that how the outcomes are coming, they equally would be a part. So there's a strong hold on resultant people, which manages the equilibrium of the two. So this is something which is called one of the best leadership style, which is team leadership under the managerial grid. Now let's come to another theory that we have, which is called the XY theory. This was given by Dulles McGregor in 1960. He gave the XY manager theory, which explicitly explains about the characteristics of X and Y managers. So according to McGregor, he believed that the management can use either the need to motivate his employees as grouped under the X and the Y theory. The X theory advanced the view that human beings have an inherent dislike for work and only be made to result at a work by application of coercive methods. So first this theory mentioned was, according to McGregor, according to X and Y, that either you need to motivate the employees under the group X and Y. And why do we need to motivate employees to start working? They felt that mostly our inherent nature of individuals and humans is not to work. So to make people work, they are not looking forward to the concern of the employees, but they are looking forward to use cohesive methods, stronger methods on people so that they work hard. The above image is the leadership grid. You can see the country club management being the highest and also the authority compliance management being the highest. So the middle point is actually of the middle road management, sailing its way through. So let's continue with the X and Y leadership. So McGregor first mentioned that we have an inherited nature of not working. So we need to use very coercive methods, like strong methods to make people work. Also postulated that leaders who hold theory X assumption believe that people are lazy, they do not have more responsibility, they are not motivated. They need to be pushed towards showing commitment. So such leadership leads to close supervision and control of workers and siphon the ingenuity of workers. So, this kind of leadership did mention that how workers are actually inherently lazy. They would not look forward to being committed with the work. Also, they required some strong methods to make them push towards goal achievement. Like, I'll give you a simple example. If your work organization feels that the employees in the work organization are not very up to mark, they might have very strict rules for your completion of work. They might have, for example, if you come late to your workplace, they might start cutting your salary after an optimal amount of coming late. And if your deadlines are crossed, you might not be given what you call this appraisals in the work. So these are coercive methods that you're using because you feel that your employees are lazy. So this is like an application of y assumption. Then leaders who practice, sorry, X assumption. Then leaders who practice Y assumption, on the other hand, involve workers that engage in joint problem solution, which is joint problem solving, understand the needs of the members, personal needs of the members, also look forward to achieve the personal goals and the organization goals together. So why theory is not saying that the workers are lazy. It's rather telling that we can achieve goals by solving the problem of the team members and understand their personal needs and achieve our goals together. This completes with X and Y assumptions, which was given by Gregor in 1960. Now, let's come to situational theories, which are also called as contingency theories. We have a lot of leadership theories that we have, which can be applied. And these leadership theory are just, these are viewpoints which we as an organizational psychologist later when we start working can utilize and probably make sure that the concern for people and concern for productivity is really good. So either if people are looking forward to productivity only of something which is the task and the assignment, they can look forward to the X theory assumptions. And if there are people who are looking forward to both, they can probably do the middle management that we studied just like in the slide before. Let's move to contingency and situational theories that explain that no one leadership style is best for managers in the organization. We need an amalgamation of many, which is every situation different from the other. That's why the leadership styles need to change also every situation. So, according to them, according to the contingency theories of leadership, successful leaders must be able to identify clues in the environment and adapt their leadership styles on their own so that they can meet the needs of the followers, which is the members and the managers, and also of a particular situation. So this is like a simple contingency theory that you need to change your leadership style according to the people and the situation. A very simple theory that we have. Now, also when we were speaking of X and Y theory, let's see how X and Y managers differ from one another. See, X theory says we need stronger ways of working so that our employees work because they're lazy. So your employees are not much like, and according to them, the employees actually avoid responsibility. They need to be monitored too much. There should be high supervision. Reward and punishment should be very strong with them. And there is always a we versus they relationship between the management and the employee because the management feels that the employee is lazy. And then we move to something which is the Y theory. The Y theory manager belief is that employees are self-motivated. They are capable of what they need to do. They enjoy their work. They're ready to take up the responsibility. They can go without supervision. So you do not need harsher supervision. And giving them more responsibility is not giving them stronger reward and punishment. It's about empowering them with taking up the responsibility, motivating to do something for the organization. Also, here the relationship is very collaborative, as I stated, that why leadership will have leaders coming to followers and managers and working together. So it's a very cordial and a very collaborative relationship that we have. So after the XY managers differences and situational or contingency theory, let's move to another theory which is called the Fiedler contingency theory. It's like a type of the theory and it's one of the biggest theory that we have in organizational psychology of leadership. So contingency theory was given by Fred Fiedler in 1958, and this theory actually was born by a lot of research which was done on effective leadership in group situation. So Fiedler believed that one effectiveness to lead depends upon the control of the situation and the style of leadership. So the effectiveness of your leadership will depend upon the kind of situation that you are in and how much you can control it, and also the kind of leadership that you are employing and using. So unlike the situational theory, a leader effectiveness is not contingent on the situation, but rather it is depending upon how you can fix style, and how you can match the situation, not like the situational contingency, but like the fiddler theory. So the only difference between the situational theory is that you need to adapt there constantly, and with this one, this believes that effective leadership will largely depend upon how you control the situation, not adapt, and what kind of style of leadership that you hold in all of those situations. So it's not talking about adaptation, it is not talking about you changing as per the situation, but it's talking about how you can take control of the situation. So that's like one difference in situational and Fiedler's contingency theory. Also, Fiedler's models of contingency theory attempts to match the leader's style using the LPS, which is called, it's the leadership ways of accomplishing goals. So it talks about leaders with good personal skills. So leaders with good personal skills relies on high relationship with others to accomplish a goal. So people who are high in LPC, which is leadership with good personal skills, will actually rely on the kind of relationship that they form with their employees. Also, the people who are low in LPC, which is personal skills, these are the kind of leaders who will achieve goals by focusing on task and positional power. So, when people who are very low on the personal skills, like personal skills to adapt and personal skills to gel up with people and understand other people, they will not pay much attention to the kind of relationship that they have with their employees. But the low LPC will have more, focus on achieve the goal, focus on the task. There's nothing to do with the relationship that you hold with managers. So that's like a task-oriented leadership, and with a high LPC is more like people-oriented leadership, which is very true. If you have high personal skills, I'm sure you need to be associated with people. You need to be socially, joined with people. And if you're low with the personal skills, you will focus on the task, you will focus on the position and your power. You'll be more centric towards how I look in a powerful position rather than how people can work together. So that's what Fiddler's another point of high LPC and a low LPC, which we can see with people. If you find managers that you're promoting very low on LPC, which is personal skills, remember these people cannot work together with managers. They are more concerned with their position power and the outcome only. Now, another key situational factors that the Fiddler's, contingency theory supported, that there are three dimension in situational factors. They mentioned that leader-member relationship is one factor that will, influence the kind of leadership that you have. So the leader-member relationship, it refers to the personal relationship between the subordinate and the leader. The task structure, which is the second factor. Task structure is one of the most important situational variables in the leadership situation. So it indicates situational favorableness, indicating the degree to which the job assignment are well structured. So this talks about more structure which involves in every situation. So if there is a leader who is very high on personal relationship but is unable to hold on to a proper task structure, which is they do not have a proper position or proper hierarchy, ways of working, I'm sure when we talk about leadership position, that might also go down, which is the third dimension. Leadership position is the power that you inherit as a leadership role. So the degree of influence the leader has in people, the degree of command the leader has in people. So imagine if people are very high on personal relationship as the first dimension, but very low on power holding and very low on structure. Remember, it would not lead to any task achievement according to Fiedler's contingency theory. It will just make you have a good relationship with your employees, but not have a good task achieved, which is your company would not achieve tasks but only be known for good relationship which are managed in the company, which is ideally not the goal of an organization. Productivity achievement is the goal of an organization. Also, if we do not have personal relationship as a factor, but we have structure, and a good powerful influence, which is the leadership position power, you might find that your organization is achieving one after the other, but not having personal relationship might make you lose good employees because you do not understand your employees in the organization. So these are three dimensions which the Fiddler's theory contingency model gave us. So see how they put up the all the three things together: the low LPC, the high LPC, and the low LPC leaders, which are very unfavorable again. So the person who is very low on LPC, which is personal skills, they would be good with leadership. They'll be very, when we talk about them, they might show a very less relationship with other people. And also, when we talk about, they are very favorable with task and power, but they are not good with something which we call as leadership relationship. People who have very high LPC would have a high, they fall in the middle category. They have good structure, good position path, and they have good leader member relationship. And then we have very unfavorable conditions where there are task motivated leaders, which are very low LPC, very weak power position, very weak structure, and they do not have a good, LPC also, member leader relationship. So this model Onago tells us that having a low LPC might reduce your three dimensions also, and having a high LPC might give you all three dimensions appropriately, very adequate in need. How much it is needed, it will be available. Fiddler's theory is very, when we talk about with Fiddler's theory, it has a lot of dimension and a lot of ways that you can actually hold on to effective leadership in a group situation. But for an individual leader, this theory might be very difficult. So, competing with Fiddler's theory, let's move to another two theories and models that we have, which is Path Goal Theory Leadership House. This was given in 1971. As the time went by, there were more and more theories that were coming into play. So, after Fiddler's theory, we had Path Goal Theory Leadership House. This was developed by Motivation Rich Path Goal Theory. So it was developed as this first. So initially it was developed as the Motivation Rich Path Goal Theory, which assumes that leaders will choose and change the path of attaining their goals based on the level of motivation that the subordinates have. So this leadership theory works as per the kind and amount of motivation your subordinates have. So they decide on goals, they decide on the path of achieving goals, not depending on their task, but depending on the motivation levels in their subordinates and managers. So there are four types of leadership under path goal theory leadership. The first is directive leaders, then there are supportive leaders, then there are participative leaders, and there are achievement oriented leaders. So directive leaders are someone who, like the term suggests, directs you. They guides you to attain an organization goal. So they'll always be there to tell you what is the way that you can move on. So they might tell you, fine, I can give you 10 steps that you can use to achieve this goal. So this is directive and guiding. Supportive leaders focuses more on interpersonal skills rather than achievement of goals. So they might make you feel better in the organization. They might make you feel good about the organization, and they might fulfill your needs, your needs which are required and needed in an organization. Then we have participative leaders. These are those leaders who collaboratively work with the subordinates. So you will find them not a 50-50% in a viewpoint, but while making decisions, while solving problems, while achieving the final target, you might find these participative leaders a part of the system. Then, as for the path goal leadership house, the last leadership type is achievement oriented leaders. These leaders usually do not expect much from the followers and to perform their highest level by overcoming any kind of challenges. So, sorry, they usually expect that the followers need to achieve goals and they need to perform at the highest so that the goal achievement takes place. So, here, what is the ideology? Achievement of goal is important and the employees must do it. So these are four kind of leadership that we have. One is directive leader, supportive leader, participative leader, and achievement oriented leader. So this was a path goal leadership theory that we have. Now, moving to another theory model, leadership model after the path goal theory that we have is the leader participation model. This was given by Vroom and Vroom. Vroom has also given us an expectancy theory in organizational psychology. So Victor Vroom And Philip Yeaton in 1973 developed this model called leader participation model, which states that there are a set of rules that are needed to be followed before making any decision making. So according to them, before you sit down to make any kind of decision making, there needs to be set of rules that needs to be followed. And this model is also called as decision participating model. Why? See, they are saying that before you decide anything big for your organization, there are some set of rules that you must follow. So decision making is an important factor here. So decision making, there are three set of qualities in the leader determines the capacity of leadership, decision making is the quality of the decision, the degree of acceptance of the decision by the subordinates, and the time required for decision making. So it is wholly focusing on decision making. The model actually talks about how can you achieve a decision. And that could be achieved by holding on to the three factors of your decision: the quality, how much it is accepted by everybody, and the time that is required for this leadership. Right? So this completes with decision making that we have and finishes with the leadership participation model, also called as decision making participation model. Let's move to the last theory that we have. This is called the transactional theory of leadership. And speaking of this, transactional theory was given by Max Weber in 1947. It's one of a very earliest theory that we have, and this was discovered. This discovered transactional theory also initially. Later, which was widely extended by Bernard M. Bass in 1981. So there are various assumptions in this theory which was made by these theorists. So transactional theory stated that people who are clear about their goals, they perform better. So this theory you might find very applicable and find very relatable. Why? See, ideally people who are very clear about their goals tend to perform better, and they take when given commandments by their leaders. Also, reward and punishment do motivate workers to work more efficiently, which is very true. At times when we are scared of punishment, we perform better. At times when we know there's a reward and appraisal, which is an yearly appraisal coming, we end up stacking what all we have done. So that's like, again, something which we call as reward and punishment, really makes you work. Then workers consider their primary goal to follow the commands of their leaders. So according to this transactional theory, workers who look forward to listen to the commandments of their heads or of their leaders, they tend to work better than the others. Then leader has to monitor the subordinate while they're doing the assigned work, which is one of the most important thing which I felt most of the theory missed out. More than guiding, participating, I think a leader is one who actually supervises and looks over everything that's going on rather than getting into it and then putting their hands into it. So according to this transactional theory, things are very relatable. So this kind of leadership is not applicable and feasible in various situations, which is very true. Gender plays a very important role in determining the outcome of the leadership behavior. So this was another thing which this theory mentioned, that their theory might not be very applicable in all the gender typing, because gender and gender participation in all organization was another thing which was coming by 1950s and 55 because of feminism and other things. So they did feel that because of gender playing an important role, this leadership might not be favorable in every way. Because you cannot expect a women employee to listen to every commandment. They would not like being monitored with every step. So that's what the that's what a drawback they mentioned here is. And also transformation. When we talk about transactional theory here, apart the other theories, they have different kind of rewards that they hold on to themselves. So these rewards according to leadership is, one is contingent reward, which is depending upon the these are depending upon the kind of targets that you achieve. So incentives that are given once the targets are completed, so that's contingent, situation based. Once you finish it, you'll get one. So transactional leadership also gave four rewards to us, four kinds of transactional leadership. Then one is contingent reward. The other is passive management by exception. So this is an unacceptable and very deviated performance from the standards, which is seen to be correct. So this is a kind of leadership which usually you would not find under any leadership style. They show, these leaders show those kinds of behavior which is a little deviated from the normal leadership, unacceptable, and that is like corrected or punished. So they are also leadership styles that might be looking forward to hold on to a standard of performance, and if you don't perform it according to the standard given by the leader, you might be punished or rewarded or corrected in between. So I'll tell you how does this look like. So passive management by exception would be you end up doing an entire thing. Your organization saw you through the entire process, but they mentioned that this is something that went wrong in your thing once you achieve the goal. So they don't pinpoint in the middle, but they tell you the problem at the end of the end of the entire goal achievement. So it's like something which is very passive. This problem should have told before, but they do it at the end passively. Then there is active management by exception. These are leaders which actively monitors you, corrects you in between, make sure that they help you through the process and they let you achieve the best. So these are someone who are very active. Then we have obviously laissez-faire leadership. These are someone who are hands off, allow the group members to decide what they like. They let creativity and innovation be a part of their members, and they do not make decisions for their members. They let their members decide, that their members work. So transactional leadership has four kinds of leadership that we have: contingent reward, passive management, active management, and laissez-faire that we have. So that finishes with transactional, and we have another one which is transformational leadership. Transformational leadership, I feel, is something which the Generation Z now needs it. I feel they need people who are very charismatic, very attractive, and the ones who aspire followers all the time. So leaders who are always looking vibrant, very influensive. So I feel charismatic leadership is something that today's generation usually requires. And his where leaders inspires his or her followers to transcend their own interest for the betterment of the organization. So there are four dimensions that we have in transformational leadership theory. This was given by Bass and Rigo in 2005. Not very old. 2005 is very close by. That has been given as transformational leadership. After, the transformation leadership style, which was given by Rego in 2000, Bass and Rego in 2005, is influenced, idealized influence, intellectual stimulation, inspirational motivation, and individualized consideration. So let's start with this. The first kind was individualized, idealized influence, which is led by example and set an expectation. So this is a kind of leadership which creates a niche all the time. So it's every time they create a mark and expectation, which is led by examples by the leaders. Then intellectual stimulation. This is encouraging by learning and growth. Then inspirational motivation is inspiring your followers to reach great heights. That's like inspiring them by your speeches, by your work. So it's inspirational motivation. Then we have individualized consideration, which is coaching and empowering them to success, which is guiding them to every nook and corner, guiding them while they're deciding, guiding them while they're achieving, guiding them while they're producing the product. So like giving out a product to the company. So it's completely coaching and empowering success in the leadership. When we talk about transformation and transactional, transaction is also very relative. Transformation, I feel, is like the today's kind of leadership. They do have major differences. See, transactional leaders are ones that are moved to compete and move to complete their roles agreed as per exchange of reward and punishment. So you know that you'll be rewarded and you'll be punished. So that's how transactional leadership works. Transformational leadership is not about that. It's about being inspired. There's a sense of awareness about what is important. They are inspired, empowered, and because of their own self-interest as managers, they end up doing it. So either they see an idealized influence, they might see an inspirational motivation. So your transformation actually happens within the managers, which makes them do something. Transaction says that you complete a task because you're getting a reward and punishment. So that's how it works. So here the focus is goals, reward and punishment, and reactive in nature. Whereas transformation is very proactive in nature because it is empowering managers. It is very charismatic, focuses on the use of charisma, enthusiasm, inspiration, empowering people, and it focuses on the vision, the long-term vision that this is what we're looking forward to. So this is the greatest difference, the difference between transaction and transformation leadership. So now let's see what are the challenges to leadership. Let's take an example. Someone decided to be a transformational leader. But what could be the challenge of being a leader, holding that position and power? So see, development of trust is one of the most difficult things that leaders needs to do. And management of conflicts, because nowadays I feel in an organization, the number of conflicts are multifolds. There are so many and at so many levels they are multifold levels. You find conflicts about needs, conflicts about appraisals, conflicts about the way responsibilities are also given to people. So that's another challenge to them. Then at times it could be the lack of transparency and respect among the followers and the subordinates and the leaders. Then lack of common goal. At times our group itself lacks common goal and motive. So they don't see the target as one target for everybody. Then a lack of cohesiveness. Not associating, not holding hands of one another as subordinate leader can be a very big problem for leadership. Then let's move to Indian perspective of leadership. How leadership looks in India. Leadership is impacted by culture. We need to know, may it be personality, may it be your intelligent, may it be any kind of skills. It's all impacted by the culture and the social norms that we are surrounded by. And in Indian context, organization usually prefers authoritative leaders rather than authoritarian leaders. So, which is very true. They like people who are commanding, dominating, rather than people who are very just and rational, I feel. So that's like an Indian concept. So according to SINHA in 1980, leaders are called as nurturing task leaders. They value both organization and progress and interpersonal relationships. So according to them, that's how a nurturing leader is something that we need. Therefore, human relationships are very valued in India, which is very true. We do, I don't know, we feel it's nothing to do with mental health. We might not pay much attention to mental health, but we much pay attention to the grievances and the problems of people. So human relationship is something which is a core of our Indian culture. So Sinha talks about that leadership is identified as characteristic of anti-leadership, which is given below, like depending too much on the leader and following a hierarchical stratified structure, demonstrating visible status and conscious in your conscious where respect, obedience to elders should be followed, and preference for a good interpersonal relationship that includes favoritism and nepotism. So this is something which usually are characteristics that Sinha and Sinha he finds in 1995 about what is the kind of leadership styles that he finds in India. So that finishes with what leadership theories are, what is leadership, the different kinds of leadership that we can hold on to, and what are the challenges and Indian perspective. Now let's move to Unit 7, which talks about learning in an organization. This is a new block. This is block 4, which talks about how learning takes place in an organization. This is very repetitive that we talk about because learning is something which has been done even before. We've done learning in personality. So this is something that we will speak about as learning in an organization. That how do we learn staying in a workplace? So learning is what? It's a relatively permanent change which usually occurs as a result of experience. So what are we seeing in learning? We need a behavioral change by the end of experiences. So its key component is change in behavior. There are multiple theories of learning, which now might be very, very familiar. We've done learning before also. So let's start with the theories of learning. As stated before, the principles of learning are best reflected in theories of behaviors, which is conditioning. Conditioning is a part of learning. Conditioning is mechanical. Learning happens, completely by experiences. Conditioning ideally is not through experiences. It's kind of a training which is mechanically given, which holds on to a stimulus and response. So there are connections between stimulus and response, which is different in learning and conditioning. So conditioning has a stimulus. Stimulus could be anything, like a glass of water, and it's been with children are being trained that you need to put water in a glass and then drink it. So like that's a condition. That this conditioning gets, I feel, slowed down with the process. The child develops into an adult. Children start drinking water from the bottle, etc. So let's start with the first conditioning that we have, classical conditioning. It's called the classical conditioning of learning because it was the first given by Ivan B. Pavlov. And this is the type of conditioning in which the individual responds to some stimuli that would not orderly produce a response by pairing it up with other stimuli. So here S is equal to R, but the S which we are taking might not be automatically equivalent to R. We associate and condition it with another S. So this is an SSR learning. One stimulus triggers that the other stimulus is coming, which automatically gives a response. There was a huge experiment which was done by Ivan P. Pavlov on dogs, which actually stated that classical conditioning is possible and it readily takes place around us. So classical conditioning can sometimes also be observed in organizational context and structure. So this is classical conditioning. We are doing the other kinds also, which is represented in the picture. So see, we have a classical conditioning, and then we have operant conditioning, and then we have observational learning that we have. So these are the major three theories that we will focus on today. So let's move to another kind of conditioning we have as operant conditioning. Moving back to the classical conditioning, I would like to explain you the entire experiment so that if someone who's new to the structure of learning as classical conditioning will learn it and can search it further. Classical conditioning was an experiment which was done by Ivan P. Pavlov on dogs. So there are three ways it was done. There was a time which was before conditioning, then during conditioning, then after conditioning. Like the experiment was divided like into three parts. So before conditioning, what happened was Ivan P. Pavlov noticed that his dog is salivating. So when he saw his dog salivating, he saw as soon as the food, the meat bowl came, my dog starts salivating. So what is the S? The S is the meat bowl. What is the R? The stimulus. So he felt that this is like an appetitive stimuli, appetitive food, it's basic need. We all do it. So I need to train the dog. So what do? This was a before conditioning style. Now during conditioning, he felt, let me put a neutral stimuli that is conditioned along with the food, which is the unconditioned stimuli. So what did he do was during the conditioning, rings the bell, give the food, and salivation happens. Rings the bell, gives the food, and the salivation happens. So now whatever happens is whenever the bell was struck, the dog gets to know that the food is coming and salivation happens. Now after conditioning was the third last testing which was done by Ivan Pavlov. He said that I've conditioned my dog for almost weeks now and let me see if it has really worked. So what did he do? He rang the bell but did not give the food. But what happened? Salivation took place. So see how the neutral stimuli, which was the bell, is now conditioned to the R, which is the conditioned response. Now the dog knows that whenever there is a bell which is ringing, I have the food. So this is SSR conditioning. So this was the experiment which was done by Ivan Pavlov. Let's move to the operant conditioning. Operant conditioning, in comparison to classical, is more voluntary in nature. You as a learner will decide that you want to learn this behavior, and if you want to learn this, only then I will show a response. So you have a stimuli, you respond when you like something which is something which is a reward which is coming after. So let's take an example. These are simple conditioning that we have. This states that operant conditioning is asking a child, we want good result in maths. So the child says, okay, fine, good result in maths. So the mother says, no, I will give you a candy after every time there's a 10 on 10 in maths. So the child likes the candy. The child feels, okay, I will get a candy after every result of mine. So after that, the child gets a candy. The reward, the thought of the reward is making the child perform well. So this is a voluntary behavior. Let's say, for example, a child wouldn't have loved candy. They wouldn't have showed the behavior. So remember, the behavior is voluntary. It's not reflexive anymore. They want to do it and they do it. So it's SR in consequence. This kind of conditioning is also called as a consequential conditioning. This experiment was done on rats that we had. Now let's move to cognitive theory before we move to the observational learning that we have. Cognitive theory is very different from conditioning. Why? Conditioning always have a stimulus and response association. Cognitive learning do not have any stimulus and response association. They are learnings which do not hold a mechanical SR equation. So this cognitive learning was started by insight learning. The first learning under cognitive theory was insight learning given by Wolfgang Koder. He was a Gestalt psychologist. In 1925, he did an experiment on chimpanzee. We all know what's an insight, the aha feeling that we get, suddenly an insight coming. So this was under cognitive theory. This experiment was done on a very intelligent chimpanzee called Sultan. Sultan was kept in a cage and some fruits were kept outside the cage. And Sultan could not move his hand and get the fruits out of the cage. So within the cage, there were some boxes, some sticks lying, and longer sticks and boxes that were lying. I will show you the page. You can see this. So, and there are bananas which were lying. That's like the most native form of the experiment. So now, when the fruits were kept outside the cage, one was hanging. This is the most native form of experiment picture that they're showing. They were hanging. So the chimpanzee Sultan was moving around here, there, trying to hit the fruits with the stick, but it was not coming close to him. The boxes were lying there. He piled one over the other. Nothing happened. After like 15-20 minutes, suddenly the chimpanzee Sultan racked stacked one rack over the other, the boxes over the other, stood over it, hit the fruits, the fruit fall, and in the other one, this is like the picture is the native experiment, like one of the most oldest experiment. In the new form, he stood over the, what do you call this, the boxes, held the stick, pulled the fruits out from the cage outside towards it. So that's how the fruits fell and fruits came over. So does it have any SR association? No. It's an insight, a sudden insight that rushes to your mind that gives you an answer. So this is insight learning, a sudden solution. It's not a gradual process, but a sudden solution that we have. Now there are other two forms of cognitive theory also. Under the cognitive theory, two forms of learning: sign and latent learning. Sign learning was given by Edward Tolman, and he believed that much of the learning is sign learning. That is what leads to what. So he used a rat in a maze and found that the rats had developed a cognitive map of the maze. Instead of learning merely the sequence of left and right, they had an entire map in their mind. So if a familiar path is blocked, the animal can adapt another route based on the kind of understanding of the spatial relationship. So this is sign learning that the rat did. So sign learning can be defined as an acquired expectation that one stimulus will be followed by a particular context, which is very true. Let's take an example. When you are going to college and you have a particular route, but you find that that route is jammed, won't you take another route because you know what's the destination? So this is what the maze learning concept of rat was all about. That rats form a cognitive map, and in that cognitive map, we know what is the starting point and how are we coming to the ending destination. And if any one area is blocked, the animal has the ability to adopt another route based on the understanding that where can I reach and how can I reach to the result, because the result and the destination is known. That is, one response may be steadily substituted by another response because they know what is the end product. Let's move to social learning theory that we have. Social learning theory was given by Albert Bandura. This learning simply states that people not only learn from their own experiences, but largely we learn social values, we learn how to talk to people, how to represent ourselves on the basis of how we observe other people and what do we see and imitate. So there are four aspects of social learning: attention, retention, motor production, and reinforcement process. So the attention process is people learn from this model only by only when the model manages to capture their attention. So if there's some activity happening, that activity will only be taken in consideration when it's attended to. So when you attend to it, the model starts influencing you. Whatever that you're seeing now starts influencing you, and you will retain it. And once you start retaining it, you start holding on to it, there needs to be a change in your behavior. So once you start checking, let's take an example: a child is watching another child play football. He himself does not know how to play football, and he saw the other child playing football and kicking the ball. Finding him kicking the ball, he holds on his attention. So your attention is happening. Now he feels that I need to retain it. How is he pushing it? How is he throwing the ball so strongly? He retains it. He learns that even the model is no longer in front of him. He goes to the ball, kicks the ball because he's retained it. Then motor production has happened because the person himself is now there and kicking the ball. As soon as the motor production happened, what is the reward? Throws to the goal. And there's a goal that the child does like what he observed in his role model. So this is what how social learning takes place. Like a child learns to play cricket because he saw somebody playing cricket and getting a lot of accolades. So he saw that, retained it, held a bat, went there on the field, gave a six. Everyone's shouting and claiming for him. So that's how attention, retention, motor, and reinforcement processes takes place. Also, there are some principles of social learning and some principles of operant learning also, which has reinforcements. So see, there needs to be a reward at the end of social learning. Also, there needs to be a reward at the end of operant conditioning, which is voluntary in nature. Let's go back to my example. You do well in maths because you're getting a candy. So these are rewards. And this entire process of rewarding is called reinforcement. So reinforces increases the strength of your response and induces repetition so that you repeat the same desired behavior again and again. So that's like it increases the probability of you taking a desired behavior. There are two kinds of reinforcement, positive and negative. Positive is simple, getting a reward after every desired result. Negative is different. Negative is you do a response because you want to get away from the unwanted stimuli. Like you are always scolded because you do not clean your room. So you want to get away from the scolding, you clean the room. Desired behavior, but not because of reward, but because of the unpleasant stimuli that you want to avoid. So that's the negative reinforcement. Then schedule of reinforcement can be continuous and partial. Examples are given. Continuous is whenever the child gets a good mark, he gets a reward. Candy, out of another candy, 10 out of 10 candy, 20 out of 20 candy. That's continuous. And partial is getting it sometime, not getting it sometime. Like a child might be rewarded at the second performance, then the fourth, maybe then the 10th, like that, partially. Sometimes and sometimes not. And also punishment is there. Punishment is, to if you want to reduce an unpleasant consequence, you punish. It could be verbally, it could be withdrawal of affection, etc. And if you do not reward, what will happen? It will lead to extinction. So if you do not give the child the candy, it will lead to something which is extinction. So this completes with today's learning thoughts today with me. And thank you everyone. Hope the class was clear to all of you from learning to leadership.